Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business, share them with us so that we can learn from it as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method, but 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Antony Draper. He's the owner of Antony Draper Coaching and Consulting. And he provides the From Chaos to Command coaching program, as well as fractional COO services. So, Antony, it's great to have you on the show. And I want to start off by asking a question that I always love to start off with, which is this. If you somehow were able to go back, starting over again with what you're doing now, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
Oh, wow. Thank you for that, Jason. Good question. So being ex-military, I kind of started after the military, actually, because I do have a story where I'd started a business up after the military, thinking that obviously with my leadership skills and everything else and my acumen, that I'd make a success of it. And in fact, actually, I didn't.
Mm.
I actually went under. I ended up with about 30,000 pounds worth of debt, and had to pick myself up and kind of go back to the kind of drawing board and say, how do I learn from that? So what should I have learned, or what would I have loved to have done differently? It's actually a lot like it I actually bring to the market right now, is understanding the visibility and health of a business and what really makes it tick and how to scale it properly without actually it breaking. So yeah, if I had to do something again, or go back, I would have that visibility within my business and understand exactly how it was operating at all times, the health, and where I was going, and be able to be informed about the decisions that I needed to make.
Yeah, that's really good. And you mentioned scaling, which one of the questions I love to ask is what's been the hardest part of scaling, but without coming across as salesy or spammy? Because I know that tends to break down oftentimes. So what's been the hardest part of that without being that way?
Well, most founders don't tend to have a leadership problem when they're trying to scale. It's normally about they've outgrown the visibility. And what I mean by that is, in essence, what got you to 5 people won't necessarily get you to 20 people, won't necessarily give you the increase in revenue, because what got you there. You need to be able to see things differently and have a different kind of visibility to be able to get you to the next level.
Mm.
So it's not salesy, really. I mean, when it's a lot of people get to a certain level through gut feel, hustle, and just making
Yeah.
things work and proving they've got a service or product for the market. But there comes a point where that gut feel and that hustle just isn't enough, and that's when you need to start seeing where you are now and where you're looking to go.
Mm. When you say that gut feeling and that hustle just isn't enough, which I totally agree with you, but what have you found to be the breakdown that people come across and going, okay, I've kind of built it to this level just through pure hustle, can't get it to that next step. What's that breakdown you see most commonly happen there?
So it does actually cover a number of areas. So when you say what's that one breakdown, it's not necessarily one breakdown. It tends to cover.
Mm.
And if I put my consultant's head on, you normally got data, people, process, and technology. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
there's a breakdown in data somewhere, normally in terms of you're not getting the right information to the right people to make the right decisions. And in fact, actually, now we mention it, the decision matrix tends to be one of the breakdowns, where what you've got is that the fact, especially if it's founder led, the founder has been
Mm.
using that hustle, and they haven't necessarily created that delegation system and that decision matrix to provide people with the authority to make decisions on their behalf, and also put the right processes in place to enable them to actually understand the scope of their role and the decisions that they could make on behalf of the founder. So really what
Mm.
tends to happen more often than not is, when I come into an organization, not only are we getting on top of the gaps that are there, but I'm also pulling leadership out of the weeds and saying, right, okay, you need to actually drive this business, steer the business, and let everyone else actually do the, work in the weeds and do the doing, and then you
Mm.
can actually see where you need to go.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. So as people are putting those systems in places, having those decision matrix being put more in place, um, what one of the things I've seen is as businesses grow, oftentimes the relationships that they have with their customers or as they're generating more leads, that begins to get spread thin because they're no longer the one being involved with that all the time. So what's the one thing that you've changed in your own business to help you build those relationships that has made that selling process easier as you grow?
Yeah, so good question and very valid points there. I mean, if I think about, I'm an engineer at heart as well, and if I put my engineering head on, you've got the revenue stream, obviously, which is traffic, MQL, SQL, fulfillment, that the whole customer journey there, and then you've got the
Mm,
operations side, which is finance, people, process, technology, kind of underpinning that and supporting it. But let's not lose sight of the fact that the reason a business actually exists in the first place is the customer. Yeah.
mm.
The whole customer journey is something that's so important. Yeah, because what needs to happen is that experience for, even if they're a lead through to actually converting to a customer and then staying with you, that whole experience needs to be amazing. Yeah. So you've got the customer is the reason that the business actually is there in the first place. And then of course, finance is the lifeblood of the business to help it kind of operate. But going back to exactly what you said there, how do you make sure that happens? Well, it's actually, again, I mean, if I go into an organization, one of the first things I always ask is actually, who's your ideal client? And you'll be surprised the amount of people that I come into that have actually lost sight of who their actual ideal client really is. They spread too thin, spray and pray, that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
spending lots of money. I mean, if I think about my corporate days, one of the challenges I found certainly with marketing was always seen as a cost center, and it was always one of the budgets that got cut first.
Yeah.
If there was finance cuts within the organization, and that to me was that to me showed that actually no one was really understanding the traceability of how important it is from the message to the market to your ideal client all the way through to fulfillment as well. And if you
Mm.
want to create those raving fans and also the lifetime value of your customer to extend, you've got to make that amazing as well. But plus, if you make their experience amazing at the back end as customers, you can bring that to the front and show those testimonials and those kind of great good news stories that really help in the market.
Yeah, that's a great answer for sure, Anthony. With all of that being said, I'm really curious about your answer around this. And I'll explain, give some context to it. So one of the things that I've found, I think we all know this, but we all deal with challenges in business. But oftentimes it can be lonely being a business owner, and so you kind of think, oh, am I the only one that deals with this, or is this no one else has dealt with that? So I like to normalize challenges because when we all know, okay, this is part of it, it makes it easier. So, having said that, what's the number one challenge that you face so far in your business? And it could be anything. It could be people, business systems, sales, whatever. What's the number one problem that you faced, and what's the lesson that you've learned from that?
Yeah, so I mean, I say this tongue in cheek to my clients actually that a business would be easy to run if it wasn't for people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you can put the infrastructure in place in terms of technology and you can get the processes right and and you can get the finance right and everything else. But if you don't get the people right, then they become the biggest challenge of all. Yeah. And
Mm,
so I mean to enable that, it's about I look at it and I go, right, clear processes, yes, but also clear SOPs for people in terms of their roles, what the expectations are of them, their accountability as well, what performance looks like for them, what good performance looks like for them, and giving people clarity. Clarity, and actually we talk about from chaos to command. I've actually got another book called Chaos to Clarity as well. And clarity to me is one of the best things that you can do as a leadership or as a business as well. Everyone is clear about what their expectations are. The other thing to also add to that as well is empowerment. Yeah. At the end of the day, to be good leaders and to actually be able to run a business efficiently and effectively, you need to be able to empower people to do, what they're good at and what you've brought them in for. If you don't empower them to do that, then you're never going to be able to get the best out of your people. Plus, also, you're never going to be able to get the best out of yourself.
Mm.
So yeah. So in short, it's the people. But
Yeah.
you get that right, and that's actually what really makes a business work.
Yeah. Speaking on the people side of it, what's the biggest challenge that you found, maybe yourself as you've grown your business, but also working with clients as well, where either wanting to bring in the right people, but they're either not, or maybe they brought in the right people, but the owner doesn't want to let go of certain things and it creates friction. What's the biggest challenges you've seen around that, and how to deal with those?
Yeah, good question. I mean, there's a number of factors in this. I mean, one of the factors that I kind of look at, let's say we're looking at the leadership, okay, and we want to bring certain people in to kind of fill roles within the board or whatever we want to call it. Um, with my sales hat on or my psychometrics hat on, just a basic disc profiling, DISC. Well, what I would look for on a board is actually for each of the different quadrants to actually be covered within the leadership to enable a rounded kind of look at where you take the business. Don't get me wrong, I'll caveat that, because if a business is at a certain stage, you may want it more biased towards a D and an I or whatever the psychometric is. But actually, what you want to also make sure is that you don't end up hiring loads of people that are like you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that doesn't work. Yeah. So for instance, if I'm a founder and I'm a high I, which means innovative and blue sky thinking and not really into the detail, if I've got loads of people who are not into the detail and they're all thinking about the wonderful things that we could do, then we're never going to get anywhere. So
Yeah.
it's about understanding the different psychometrics of people and looking at those coming in to benefit the business as a whole. But then again, I go back to the leadership side of things in terms of being able to empower people and realize that, do you know what, as the founder, probably no one will do it as good as you can. But you've got to go for that 80-20 rule. Yeah. And actually, depending on your financial situation, you might have to go for a 60-40 rule to begin with, based on depending on the role, with
Yeah.
a development opportunity. Yeah. And then, I mean, if you're growing even further and you're getting graduates in and everything else, that's a whole different ball game. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question in a roundabout.
No, no, it does. I think it's a great answer for sure, Anthony, for sure. Well, looking at your business over the next 2 to 3 years, what would you like to achieve? What are your goals?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So, I mean, I've got a consulting background as well as a coaching background, so that's why it's coaching and consulting. And the way I've kind of looked at it is that I've taken a framework, to the market. I've been using a framework for a long time. I've actually now called it something which is Chaos to Command. Of course, I've got a book there that kind of sits on there, underpins that. And so, really, what I'm looking to do is to help more to leverage and help more people. That's why I brought the coaching element and things, because I'm also an executive coach as well. I brought the coaching side of things in, where I'm actually looking for not just founders, but even coming in as a team. So a
Mm.
founder and a coup coming together, and I can kind of work with them from a coaching perspective to get the founder out the weeds and kind of steering the business, and the coup kind of setting up the operations properly and getting that side. But then obviously the spin-off from that again is consulting side of it. So if they need further support, that kind of stuff. And then as well, like we all are, in today's world, where I'm building, my company's building SaaS solutions as well, which kind of helps. So we've got things like the CEO dashboard, which can API into various areas of the business, not then it doesn't matter what kind of CRM or finance, bookkeeping software. We can do that. We can bring that health there. We can look at the portfolio across the business, and the leadership and especially the CEO can literally go, okay, I can look across my business and I know what's possibly at risk, what's green, what's red, that kind of stuff, and I can see the strategic steer or portfolio that we're taking. So if you look at it, coaching, consulting, and SaaS, there we go.
Nice. Absolutely amazing. Well, for people that are wanting to learn a bit more about you or get in touch, what's the best place for them to do that?
Well, so you can go to anthonydraper.com. But what I would say is what I tend to ask people to do is do my scorecard, which is actually scorecard.anthonydraper.com. And what that does is it's literally just 20 questions, 3 minutes. And it gives you a good insightful report on that that really shows you where your kind of strengths and weaknesses are within your business. And off the back of that, if you want to have a chat, then that makes it a bit more of a meaningful chat rather than just coming and having a yap. We can actually talk about that. And then I can give pointers, that kind of stuff, or we can work together either way.
Amazing. Well, Anthony, thanks so much for that. I recommend everyone to definitely check out that scorecard. You might find some interesting information about yourself from the results, and maybe Anthony can help you in some way as well. But Anthony, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a great privilege having you on. Thanks you for your pearls of wisdom that you shared as well. And as a reminder to everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.